Hello, everybody. Adrian Plass here,
Yes, and Bridget, hello.
and I think it is number 83 of Sounding the Shallows. And we are
Yeah,
home from our holiday,
yeah.
where we stayed in a cottage over in Cumbria.
We did, yeah.
And we actually had a very good Christmas, didn't we?
Well, we did. I mean, anybody who remembers us from over a year ago might remember that last Christmas one of our sons didn't get back. He was stranded. I'd broken my ankle and our boiler had burst. So, you know, it was a fairly low bar.
It's all pure joy, though, isn't it? As the
Yeah.
book of James says, we should regard all these problems as pure joy,
Well,
which of
actually,
course we do.
we were very
We were all
blessed
right.
this
And I'll
Christmas.
tell you
We
one
were very
thing.
cosy, and you were
I know it sounds. So I was
alive
alive
and kicking.
and
Yes.
kicking. I wasn't kicking, but I was alive. No, I'm doing all right. And one of the things that will sound rather banal to people is that there was, in this rented cottage, there was a huge television. And Christmas time, it's quite nice to have a huge television, except that it was still full of all the Christmas stuff begins to really jar on me
There were
after
some
a
nice
while.
things that we didn't see at the time, but there was
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
true.
very this everybody being jolly all the time is very
Yes, I
tiring,
know.
really.
But you actually found one or two things very interesting, didn't you?
Well, one of the things, and I don't think you saw this, but that I found, I suppose, disturbing, if I'm honest. They had a report from Bethlehem, and they showed the lighting of the Christmas tree lights, which I found very bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, Christmas trees were just not really around, at the time of Jesus.
Not quite.
Neither
no.
were the fluorescent
I
lights.
think about 2,000 years before they appeared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand. I know that they're struggling. Bethlehem is struggling. I mean, it's a Palestinian city, and last year it was completely closed. Pre-pandemic, apparently they used to have up to about 3.5 million visitors.
Yeah.
Then last year was closed.
3.5 million.
3.5 million. No wonder they
Wow.
had strobe lighting and
Yeah.
Christmas trees, and I don't know. I found it really difficult, and yet it reminded me, Adrian, of when we were there, and it was one of the things that I think, if I'm honest, I hated the most. I was so looking forward to going to Bethlehem, and there was scaffolding all inside the Church of the Nativity anyway, and we had to be in one of those snake-like queues waiting forever. And then when we finally got to the apparent place where Jesus was apparently born, there were people rushing us on. Every time anybody kneeled down, you were supposed to kneel, kiss, and off you went really,
Yes,
really
right.
quickly. And I remember coming out of there feeling I'd been at a very low-key sort of Euro Disney or something. I was shell-shocked by it, really. And I suppose both of us felt, didn't we, that there were lots of people there just ticking things off their list. But there's some people who will have saved all their lives just to go and kiss that place.
Yeah. And I think if
Very
you
confusing.
watch their faces closely, you would have seen why. And I remembered, years ago we did a little bit of work with Malcolm Muggeridge, didn't we? Who
Yes,
was
we did.
well known at one time as he writes like an angel, but he was a writer and broadcaster. And he was a bit of a cynic. And I remember him talking about being there and feeling very cynical and watching people come in and thinking, well, we don't know whether this was the place where he was born.
Well,
And
I
anyway,
thought that, yeah.
is he all this stuff? And then he looked at their eyes as they looked at the place where they believed Jesus was born.
Yeah,
And in their eyes, he saw a look of wonder.
yeah.
And it was it was one of the very important steps along the road to his conversion to Christianity.
That's absolutely right.
And
yeah.
I do. When we were there, this is the only time we've been to Israel and been to Bethlehem. But I do remember thinking, don't follow the road of your cynicism. Follow the road
Yeah.
of what it does to people and what it means. It was very, very interesting just to watch their faces as
Yeah.
they thought, I am in the place where Jesus was born.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, Adrian. I suppose I did feel a bit cynical, really. But then our experience as well was that there was so much poverty that of course they were going to try and attract tourists. Of course they were going to perhaps go for the commercial end.
Well, if you remember, I mean, I asked one of the Palestinian people at one of the places where we went, why do you promote the Christian stuff when you're, that's not your faith?
Yeah.
And he looked at me with a sort of pity in his eyes, and he said, "We are very poor."
I do remember that.
Remember that?
Of course, I remember that. I
Yeah.
think that's what I was thinking about, really. Yeah, yes. But the other program that I saw, and again, I don't think you were there. I think it was quite early in the morning.
What was I doing then?
Well, I think this time you were getting up slowly and quietly, and it was a poem about space, and it was actually about science in 2021, and it was looking at the whole thing, and it was just had some of the most stunning images of space ever. It was extraordinary. I mean, they've got these incredible telescopes now, what I was just blown away by what happens when the stars kind of explode and all the other things. And of course, I'm not a scientist. I'm so far from being a scientist or understanding any of it. But the beauty of it was just exquisite. It was almost like embroidery. It was just so lovely. So that was in my mind.
It's rather like that poem, isn't it? The one you've always loved. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths?
Enwrought with gold and... Yes,
That's
absolutely.
right, yeah,
That was
yeah.
Yeats, wasn't it? And so that was there. But then something else happened. Now, this I'm really not going to understand. But, we always assume that when you have the grand telescopes, the best telescopes, you're going to learn more and more and more. And everything is going to become clearer and clearer and clearer. You've just found that poem.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. Read that.
I'll read that, yeah. I thought we got it here. This is, it was Yeats, isn't it? This is how it goes. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams.
Yeah. And the beauty of the sky when you see it in depth, the colours, it's so exquisite. And I sometimes feel that, that dreamt up by God, that extraordinarily beautiful sky of the planets and the stars, it was dreamt up by God. And yet, to some extent, we quite easily tread on it. Now that's not anti-science. I'm just saying that, it's easy to lose that. But the thing that struck me, and this is where I'm really a little bit out of my depth, but one of the scientists who was talking on this program was talking about the new telescope. Well, there's two new ones, but this one apparently is the Parkes telescope. And he was saying that he'd always been perfectly comfortable to stop at what Einstein discovered, that he proposed that gravitational waves were part of the theory of relativity. Now, I hardly know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But the point is that there are supposed to be these waves, and that is how the world that is how the universe evolved. Well,
so he spent 11 years.
No. These scientists spent 11 years.
That's what I mean,
with this telescope, trying to find these rumbles, trying to find these gravitational waves. Yeah. And what he actually said is, we heard nothing. This is Dr. Shannon. He said, we heard nothing, not even a whimper. It seems to be all quiet on the cosmic front, at least for the kind of waves we're looking for. So they're not rejecting Einstein and all that he's discovered, but this scientist, this top scientist, is saying We need to go back to the drawing board to find out how the universe began. And I remember the words about tread softly lest you tread on my dreams, on God's dreams of the universe. And I thought they still haven't found what they're looking for.
Well, we were talking last week about Bono's song.
Yeah, we were.
Still haven't found what I'm looking for. And there's an email we had about that. Somebody said, this is what they wrote. This week you spoke about the phrase Bono used. I've still not found what I'm looking for, and it rang a real bell for me. It's something I've felt and still feel when I've tried to voice it. I've been shouted down and told not to be so stupid because I know what I believe and what else is there, which has just left me questioning whether I did actually know what I believed. I think I probably do know what I believe deep down, but that doesn't stop my head questioning and also having doubts because I don't feel, So thank you for not making me feel guilty. Well, the opposite, actually, and lifting some of that guilt away. Isn't that great to have that?
Well, the thing about this scientist, Adrian, was that he wasn't despairing because everything that had been a certainty had been again thrown up in the air. He was excited. And I think that if you can turn on your head an anxiety about not having found what you're looking for, admitting that you feel there's still something else, it ought to be exciting.
There is, though, isn't there, a profound sense of bereavement sometimes, that the thing you thought you knew, the area that you were certain about, has turned out to not be as sure as you thought it was.
Or not be the complete answer,
be the complete answer. And for those who've been Christians for years, and I've been a Christian for years, and so have you, there comes a time when you do have to reassess, rejig, move on, learn something else. And I thought, when you were talking about this, of all the people I've known who have said to me, and there are a number, have said, I used to know it in my head. And I said, well, what's wrong with that? And they said, well, it's not in my head anymore, it's in my heart. And I know probably said this before, but when we were young Christians, we were one of the sound bites was that you have to move your knowledge from your head the 18 inches down to your heart. But the fact is, a lot of people are left with it in their hearts, and sometimes it burns in their hearts, and it's bewildering because your mind no longer can encapsulate the feeling of or the total truth of what it is. But still, in your heart, you believe, and it's there, and it's not going to go away.
Yeah. Because this week, of course, we're just coming up to the 31st, and we're talking about television. Every jolly programme seems to be looking back. Of course it is. It's going to get worse tomorrow and the next day. But looking back at 2021, and looking actually mainly, I felt, at pretty bad news or sad news or whatever. I mean, lots of things about COVID, of course. And there is a sense, I mean, it's COVID-19 is what it was called.
Yeah.
And now it's Omicron, because I don't think they want to say any more about anything that started in 2019. But there's the Duke of Edinburgh's died. That was a great sadness in the UK for the Queen and for the family. And I don't know, there was loads of stuff about climate change, wasn't there? Loads of stuff about fires, forest fires and floods. And it was all pretty depressing. But I found myself thinking, does that actually, that has to be put parallel, doesn't it, to what one's own year has been?
Our own year had its own difficulties, didn't it? I mean, you broke your ankle.
No, that was last year.
Oh, was that last year? Oh, right.
No. This year we had our first grandson.
That's
Come on,
true.
that
We had
was
our
a
first
very
grandson,
good thing.
which was a wonderful thing.
Yes, yeah.
And what else happened to us this year?
Well, I don't think we're going to talk about you having to have an operation on your brain. Let's leave that one. Let's leave that firmly in this year.
It was a successful operation on my brain.
I know.
Mind you, people who say their brain is working all right are a bit suspect, aren't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been a mixed year, but some very good things, I think. Yeah.
It'd be good to hear from people, wouldn't it? What changes have happened, not just in their lives so much, because I suppose we've just mentioned specifics,
Yeah.
but things that have happened, I suppose, in our heads and our hearts, really.
I would imagine that a lot of people find it very hard to express what has happened with faith over this period. It has been such a strange, scrambling, untidy time. And although some people are as strong and fixed as they ever were, I know...
And some people more so.
Yeah, more so, because I know them, that there are some people for whom it's become very difficult and aren't at all sure where they are with it all.
I think it's true. I think we have all been kind of shaken and stirred a bit, and it's quite easy to start thinking what we need is the booster, or what we need is the next booster, and lose that sense of relying on God. Although I must say, Adrian, that when it came, for example, to your operation, there was that sense of everything mattering. And it's a word, mattering. I'm not sure there is,
Everything mattering?
everything mattered.
Yeah.
The prayer was really important, but so
Yeah.
was the fact you ended up in a great hospital with a really good team of
course,
neurological.
One of the best hospitals in
so
the
so
country,
everything coming together for
Yeah.
you at that time, but that doesn't apply to everybody.
If you asked me what was at the centre of my understanding of God through that and through the rest of it, it would be a little bit vague, because I have learned that we do not know what God is doing or where He's going. I'm sure of that. But I am also sure, because it's part of how I live, is that what He would say to me now and to many is, hold your nerve. Hold your nerve. The best is yet to come. So just hang on. And perhaps to become reliant in a way we haven't even understood before. I do remember, I don't know if I said this to you, that when I was in hospital and trying to recover from this thing, the sense that God was saying to me, you are here as deliberately as anything else that has ever happened to you, and you still need to keep your eyes and ears open for the things that you can be part of, however small or however apparently large. And there were things that I'll write about one day.
I'm sure.
So yeah.
I think what is interesting is, we always come up to the 31st, by the time we talk to you again, we'll be in 2022. And I think the fact that we have been so shaken and stirred, so tumbled about by so much happening, means that maybe we need to land and to be realistic, as to who we are and where we are and what we can and can't do.
Maybe to be a little more dependent, which isn't easy for us. It isn't easy for us. This is a poem I wrote some time ago, which kind of tries to express that. Maybe it will find some echoes.
Or maybe we'll finish with this.
Listening. It's called Promises. Strange God, Lord, Jesus, Saviour, Friend, what can I promise you? Only one thing, with no shadow of a doubt. I promise I will let you down.
Yes. Oh dear.
I feel quite sure that there will be some courtyard somewhere where a fire burns and crowds are gathered, and the test will come, and I shall feel my stomach lurch with fear, and I know what I am liable to do. I'll blow my stack in some way and throw you to the wolves temporarily, let them tear your name to shreds. Probably retreat and come to with a shock, to find myself on some sad corner of the street, lingering and lost beneath a lamppost in the rain. And then I'll weep, I know I will, and wish that I could die and never see your disappointed face again. And then, of course, my strange, close, persistent friend, you'll keep your promise, won't you? To love me, love me, love me, love me. How could you do otherwise? It is the way that you are made. I fear I have not yet received sufficient grace to smile when I am punished with such unrestrained compassion. All in all, I do not have the wisdom, nor the power, sometimes not the will, to make wild promises about the things that I shall do for you. It might be better just to take your hand and try to do my best, however feeble that may prove to be, and leave the power and all the promising to you.
Just read the last two lines again, Adrian, because I think that's probably what most of us need to be able to do. Take your hand, take God's hand and try and do our best.
Just take your hand and try to do my best, however feeble that may prove to be, and leave the power and the promising to you.
That's quite a prayer, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be lovely to hear if anybody wants to share anything that to do with what's been happening inside their hearts and heads
through this period.
Any promises they feel they want to make.
You
or
look after
whatever.
yourselves.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you next week.
Well, not just next week. We'll see you next year.
Next year, yeah. God bless.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.